The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Hello. Good evening and welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna. Joining me, Mr. Mark Radulich. How's it going?
Hello there. You know, I'm glad I gave up betting. In the last week or so, I decided to take the Hard Rock app off my phone, and I have completely given up gambling because turns out gambling as a tertiary income, not a good idea, especially when you have my kind of luck. But I've been kind of tracking. I got into watching basketball because of gambling, and I've been kind of tracking the games I would have bet on and how I would have bet. And as it turns out, I made a good decision because I'd have lost every single one of those bets. It is amazing how unpredictable this stuff is. Right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are in a neck-and-neck tie with one of the most mediocre teams in the goddamn league, in the Miami Heat. Now, apparently everybody on the Miami Heat's injured. I think you're in there playing right now, as a matter of fact. That's how far deep in the bench they got. And they're still, like, when I last checked out the score, it was 79-76. That's how I'm doing, Alexis. That's how I'm doing.
Okay, number one, I don't gamble. My grandfather was actually addicted to gambling, so I stay away from it. Addicted personalities run in my family, so. And number two, not only do I not care about most sports, as I'm sure you have figured out, but basketball is like genuinely at the absolute bottom of the list of sports I care about.
All right.
And maybe that's from growing up in Kansas City and we don't have a basketball team.
All right. So if I was hot and you wanted me and you wanted to impress me and be my girlfriend and you had to like sports, rank the sport you'll tolerate the most to the least. Obviously, basketball is the least. Okay. What's at the top?
Do you count Quidditch?
You're a fucking loser. Stuff you in a fucking locker, man. No, real sports, god damn it.
I couldn't resist.
86-84, by the way. Cleveland.
Yay.
So what's it, football? Is that you're most tolerable?
Baseball and football goes back and forth a little bit. I mean, I always joke with people who ask about, it's like, because again, Kansas City, Royals and Chiefs and everything. So like when we were getting into the playoffs this last season before we got our asses handed to us in the Super Bowl, people were like, you support that. It's like, you're watching football. I'm like, Chiefs are in the playoffs. That's what I'm watching. I don't care about the other teams.
Right. All right, so football and baseball, you're 1 and 2. What's above basketball? Soccer?
Yeah, I would guess so. I did play soccer as a kid, so.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I played for a little bit. I tried to get my kids to play soccer. One was afraid of dirt. The other one didn't see the pointlessness of running back and forth on a field.
Gee, I wonder which was which.
So what are we talking about tonight, Toots?
We're talking about The Bears Season 2. For those of you who are just joining us and wondering why we're talking about Season 2, go check out our archives. We've already talked about Season 1, and we're going to be talking about Season 3. When the heck are we talking about Season 3?
Oh, you would ask me questions about the schedule.
Man schedules, God laughs.
April 16th.
All right, a little comment here from my friend Tommy Carter. 6 months /6 months. 2 sports split our year.
Did you say I already scheduled you? I basically didn't wait for your permission. I was just like, fuck it, you're doing this with me. We're doing apple cider vinegar in May.
Yes, I did see that.
Yay.
Well, you know what? I got to talk with Jason and Robert. There's a ton of scary movies coming out this year. Actually, there were a lot of really good trailers before I saw The Monkey on Monday. And we were talking about how a lot of them look really good for reviews. So,
Cool.
and it was fun having the three of us back together to talk horror. Doesn't get to happen very often.
I didn't scream, "Would you shut the fuck up" at once during that podcast. It was good. It was much
Yay!
better.
Personal accomplishment.
All right.
Okay, so yes, we've already talked about season 1 of The Bear. We're going to be talking about season 3, The Bear, a psychological comedy drama television series created by Christopher Storer on FX or for FX on Hulu. Stars Jeremy Allen White as Carmi Berzatto, an award-winning chef who returns to his hometown of Chicago to manage the chaotic kitchen at his deceased brother's Italian beef sandwich shop. Supporting cast includes Yvonne Moss Bacharach, Io Edibiri, Lionel Boyce, Liza Colon-Zayas, Abby Elliott, Maddie Matheson. And season 2 had a lot of guest stars coming out of the woodwork. We had John Mulaney, Will Poulter, oh my God, Bob Odenkirk. I was like, wait, which Odenkirk was it again? And of course, getting her a freaking Emmy, Miss Jamie Lee Curtis, Scream Queen.
It is amazing how criminally underrated Jamie Lee Curtis is as an actress.
It's so long for her to get that Oscar for anything, everything, everywhere, all at once. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you think about Jamie Lee Curtis when we were kids. There's 7 or 8 years between us, I think. What year were you born?
84.
Yeah, 8 years between us. But still, Jamie Lee Curtis was, the hotsy totsy of our age. I think mine more so than yours. And so you think about her in Trading Places, you think about her in True Lies, and it's hard to imagine in the 21st century, Jamie Lee Curtis is this like amazing actress, and then you see her in Everything Everywhere All at Once, you see her in this, you see her in The Last Showgirl, and you think, my God, this woman, you can give her anything, and she turns it into chicken salad. It's amazing. It's like I never realized just how good an actress she was, and actually, what first clued me in wasn't even Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was seeing her in The Last Showgirl, which if you haven't seen it, you should. So I think it's on streaming now. She plays Pam Anderson's buddy, and she gives such an understated, subtle, amazing performance. And then you see her in this, and she brings that manic, briefly psychotic energy to the mother character, and you're like, oh my God, she is fucking phenomenal.
Well, let's go and get started. Season 1 ended with the discovery of where Mikey had been hiding all of his money. Guess what? The smaller cans of tomatoes are more delicious and more lucrative, apparently. He'd been hiding all the money in the cans. I genuinely don't know how he resealed the cans. I don't know. But
yeah, that seemed like orc mischief to me, but I was like, whatever. It's a minor detail.
So Carmi and Sydney have decided that they're going to take that money and they're going to revamp the beef into the Bear, and they are going to officially make it their own restaurant. It's no longer going to be just a Italian sandwich place. They're really going to make it a fine dining restaurant. And this season it is literally the 6 months build up as they realize that is the only opportunity they're going to get. And if you've ever owned a business, let alone a restaurant, a service industry, getting something off the ground within 6 months is nigh on impossible and will probably get you laughed at by anyone you're trying to get a loan from. So we see just everything going crazy around them as they're trying to get this off the ground. We have the building falling apart. We find out that a lot of the walls have serious rot and mold in them. They're trying to figure out why they can't pass their fire suppression test. We have that great scene of Sydney falling through the wall because it turns out that Mikey basically tried to do what was the phrase? Jewish lightning.
Right.
Yeah, phrase we're not supposed to say, where it basically means he tried to burn down his own restaurant for insurance money. So, and he basically has a giant hole in the wall, and he just put a picture up over it,
What a
like
map,
it's
didn't he? It was like a map of like Fenway Park or something like that.
something like that. It's like the ending to Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot be the only one who thought of that.
No, it's also reminded something. I don't know if it was Family Guy or something else. Like, how did you manage to get the poster to the appropriate tautness from inside the tunnel?
Yeah, that was a Family Guy
Okay.
joke. It's like, did you like anything about the movie? I did up until that point.
Right.
So, again, this episode, we have a lot of really great guest stars. Jamie Lee Curtis was phenomenal as Donna, Mikey, Natalie / Sugar, and Carmi's mother, who you can really see where the dysfunction comes from with this family.
Yeah.
But first, I want to talk about we have, like I said, this season, the focus, like I said, is growth. And we get to watch all of these characters as they grow and change. The first season was just setting up and figuring out where we were going to go from there. This season, we see challenges and character development from pretty much everyone. Although not slightly from Carmi, but we'll get to that. I think he's the only person who doesn't really grow as a character. I think he takes a backslide, unfortunately.
Yeah, the word you're looking for is regress.
Very much so. One of my favorite episodes is we have Marcus, our pastry chef, who is sent to Copenhagen to work with a pastry chef out there and to learn some new techniques. He works with Will Poulter, who stars as Luca, who we find out has worked with Carmi before when we see their picture together in a later episode. And it's really fun to see because, again, Marcus is a character we got to know very little about in the first season, and it's fun watching him develop this passion. We see that he was just a bread maker for the beef. He made the sandwich bread, and he has this passion for making desserts, and it's so interesting to see it come out of the woodwork like that. And I love the conversations that he has with Luca. They talk about how they've built themselves, and Luca talks about how he just kept making mistake after mistake, and you get the line, "That's the secret, just keep fucking up." And I think that's actually kind of ingenious. A very good friend of mine, my friend Josh, says that the secret to success is learning to fail faster. It's learning to pick yourself. It's like you made a mistake. Now get yourself back up, realize what you've done wrong, and get back to it.
To my eternal chagrin, I wish this whole enterprise had been more successful than it has been. It's definitely become more of a hobby than anything else. But I will tell you that I still go back and listen to a lot of the old stuff. I go way back, and I listen to like the Blog Talk Radio years, and I can absolutely hear and see the growth. I can see the mistakes, and I can see the corrections, and you definitely you learn by doing, and you can't be afraid to fail. And I'll tell you, like I said, I've put a lot of effort into this. Did it all pay off? No, not by a long shot. But were some significant improvements made? Sure, absolutely. I was actually saying recently, to relate this back to the bear, when I listen to some of the old shows, I get on you all the time about like meandering and losing focus of the podcast.
Why do you think I started keeping notes?
Yep. You should have heard me and Robert back in the day. We would start in the woods. If we ever found the road, it was a miracle. I can't tell you like how many podcasts started off with us just babbling, and not like we just did, where it was just kind of a cute couple of minutes just to break the ice of the podcast, and then we got serious. 25-30 minutes, Robert and I were just or God help me, some of the old Long Road to Ruins, where had I edited them, I would have cut a third of the podcast out with me and Sean. Your ex there, he liked to talk.
He still does.
So my point is, him. I love the interactions with him and Will Poulter's character. Will Poulter's a very good actor. It's a goddamn shame what they did to him in Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's a whole other podcast, which you can hear in the archives. But
Well, it's actually interesting because a lot of us grew up watching Will Poulter as a child actor. This is the guy who played Eugene in Dawn of the Treader. It's the third Chronicles of Narnia movie.
I've actually never seen any of those.
Oh, really? First one
Yeah.
was good. First one was quite good.
Mhm.
And then we saw him in I can't remember, We're the Millers with Jason Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston, where he was literally playing like the biggest nerd on the planet, and not like cool geeky nerd, but just you have no way of functioning with human beings, kind of a nerd. And then you see him all grown up now, and it's like he's an amazing actor. He's gorgeous. He grew into those looks. I mean, he had kind of a flat pie face for most of his youth, and now it's like, whoa, when the hell did you get so damn good looking?
I liked his interactions with Marcus because a lot of the way that drama presents professional cooking, being a chef, is just how awful chefs can be. We actually saw that in the first season with what's his face, McHale.
Joel McHale.
Yeah, Joel McHale. So it was nice to see, and I was like, oh gosh, not this again. When he first goes there, and he's not the warmest of characters, but I think he was playing into the ethnicity of what this character was supposed to be. But he was, but he was helpful. He was a great coach. He was, he was a great mentor. He was somebody that Marcus really could learn from, and I enjoyed their chemistry as actors together. The one thing I complained about with the first season, which got infinitely better this season, and this was an example of it, I didn't get as much of a sense of the love of food. And we mentioned this last
We needed
show.
more food porn.
Yeah, we needed more food porn, but we needed, porn kind of makes it sound like what porn is supposed to be. It's just very physical, graphic, visual, lacking in context or grace. And that's why I don't love the term food porn for this, because when you the best example this is actually not food. It's my go-to. It's not The Wire, I promise. It's actually Breaking Bad. Close. Breaking Bad. Have you ever seen the show?
Oh, of course.
Okay, when the flashback to him making I think it's the shoebox, the wooden box. And
in the final episode where it's Jesse. He's being kept captive making meth, but in his head he's doing this brilliant woodworking, and you see him gliding the sander and rubbing the stain. It's all beautiful,
gentle touches and caresses. He's treating the wood like it's fine art. When you do that with food, when you're there's so much care and precision. You brought up the menu, which would have been another good example of this, but I don't remember a lot of the visuals from the menu. I remember more of the interactions between the characters. But the way Marcus and Will are interacting with the food, and there's a little bit more of this with other characters this season, gave me that appreciation of food I was looking for that was lacking in the first season.
Absolutely. And that was something I was looking forward to as well. We talked about this in when we reviewed the first season. I'm a foodie. I'm an amateur chef. I love cooking. I love learning new techniques. And I always love watching shows on Food Network where you really see the attention they put into what they're making. The new season of Next Level Chef just premiered. They just got through all 3 auditions, and I got to watch someone literally use flaming hot Cheetos as a crust on their food. And I was just like, and Andre was just like, Cheetos? They're putting Cheetos? And it's like, no, that was actually kind of brilliant.
We I took a whole bunch of ingredients out of the pantry, threw it into Fancy, and Fancy gave me a menu, a recipe. So we made a snapper and tuna and a spaghetti with chili sauce. It was really, really good, and nothing I would have thought of making on my own. But yeah, I definitely have appreciated the joy of, cooking my own food when I actually have the time and energy to do it.
That was actually an app that I suggested being developed when I was younger. Not that I had any idea how to program it, But I said there should be an app where you just literally list off all of the ingredients you have in your pantry, in your fridge, and it's like, find me a recipe. Tell me how I can make something with all of this stuff. So like I've got a couple of chicken thighs, a can of stewed tomatoes, and some white rice. Help me.
It's funny. I had a moment last Sunday. So last Sunday was the Oscars,
Mhm.
and the girlfriend and I, the daughter was on a trip to Tennessee, so it was just us and my son. And I was like, well, let's figure out what we're gonna make for dinner. And I was like, let's keep it simple. We'll make spaghetti and meatballs, with sauce. And she was like, okay, go ahead and make the spaghetti. And I had this moment, this of like, I've never actually made spaghetti before. Even when we cooked together and made the spaghetti, she had like already salted the water and dumped the noodles into the water. I was doing other stuff. So for the very first time in my life, at 48 years old, almost 49, I made spaghetti last Sunday before the Oscars. Like literally boiled a pot of noodles.
I DoorDashed IHOP. I was craving pancakes.
Fair enough. Anyway, back to the show.
All right. Now, obviously, we're going to need to talk about episode 6, The Feast of the Seven Fishes, but I would actually like to jump ahead and talk about some of the other episodes later in the season, because I really want to save the discussion on episode 6 for last, because there is so much to unpack with that one.
Sure is. And if you don't do it right, I'm going to throw a fork at you.
Did you see the description I wrote on this? I said, hide the forks in the tuna casserole.
Yeah, yes.
So forks pop up a lot in this season. Yeah, first we have the forks on episode 6. Mm-hmm. Then we have episode 7 with Richie having to polish the forks. And then in episode 10, we find out they ran out of forks.
Yes, and if he's lucky, he'll get to do spoons.
There is a great stand-up where this guy talks about how when you return the spoons, if you chucked them the certain way, it was like one of those rotating tray things. It's like it goes around the camera. But he said if you chucked it the right way, the spoons would bounce off and hit whoever was standing there collecting the dishes. And on the last day, he put, before they went in, he put a sign on the tray right around that said, "Here come the spoons, motherfucker." And then they started pelting the spoons. And he always jokes about what he said, we all have to die someday, and I want a great, glorious death. And he said he can only hope that the last thing he hears before he dies is someone standing over him saying, "Here come the spoons, motherfucker." And he was like, I will have had a wonderful death. Sorry.
Just waiting for you to continue.
But we have episode 7, which I think is also a really great episode. Again, we're watching the growth of these characters. Richie is sent to stage, is the way they pronounce it. It's spelled stage, but it's stage. It's essentially shadowing. And he's sent to one of the premier restaurants in Chicago, which is based off of a real restaurant. Same name. Obviously, in fact, I believe they actually did film there. They allowed the restaurant to shut down for like a week and film there. And he just, absolutely hates it at first because all he's doing is polishing forks. And he's getting reprimanded if the forks have streaks. But let's face it, we go out to restaurants, and if a fork has streaks, we will probably say, hey, this fork is dirty. I want a clean one.
Right.
Just because we see the streaks, we assume it's not cleaned all the way through. And we get that great scene with the deep dish pizza, which is apparently based on a real thing that happened. It was a chef. It was another chef's name. Hang on, I had it up here. Let's see here. Apparently, this was a similar thing that actually did happen to this guy. So here's season 2, Forks. I love that episode is just called Forks. Okay, to Fame Service Industry Anecdote by Will Guidara, American restaurateur and author of Unreasonable Hospitality. In 2010, Guidara was running 11 Madison Park, one of New York's premier fine dining destinations, and overheard a table lament the fact that despite trying various top eateries on their trip, they had not gotten a classic New York dirty water hot dog. So Guidara rushed out to a nearby cart and had the chef plated and presented to the delighted guests.
That's awesome.
And we have that here. We have Richie over here, a table saying that they've been in Chicago. They've gone to all of these fancy restaurants, but they have not yet gotten to try a traditional Chicago deep dish pizza. And as someone who does work every now and then in Chicago, I can tell you, yes, you need to try the deep dish pizza. Those things are amazing.
Right.
So the chef sends Richie to another restaurant that actually makes and sells deep dish pizza. But rather than just serve the pizza outright, he plates it by cutting out cylinder pieces and using a basil sauce to decorate the plate, which sounds so freaking heavenly. I would love that. And has Richie go out and present it, and we get to see just how charismatic and good with people Richie is when he's not cursing up a storm.
He's a natural salesperson. He has, there are different kinds of intelligences in the world, and one of those intelligences has to do with charisma. And his is very high. As I always joke, if he's a D&D character, he's got
the bard.
He's got a 20 charisma. That is his selling point. I actually thought when they were doing the interviews with the front of the house, I thought that was going to end up being him, because he's got such charisma. He's got such an adeptness for sales, in terms of convincing people, making an argument, etc. This is one of my favorite episodes. One of the things that's said when he's talking to the guy that he's shadowing, and he's talking to some of the other people, is, why do you work here? Because again, his journey from season 1 to season 2 was an appreciation for what it is they're doing. This used to just be Mikey's sandwich shop, and it was almost like a cover for Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And that's kind of where his head was. Like, he never saw the value in what they were doing because they were involved in such other nefarious business. And then it just became kind of plugging up the holes in the ship, keeping your thumb in the dike. But thank you. But
oh, I'm sorry. Did you want a freaking Pinkie Pie symbols?
Are you gonna? Like, it's fucking delay.
It's not my fault. I hit the button. Blame it on the damn system.
I'm like, So,
I hit it. It was frozen.
But and then even there, he's so like bent out of shape, and you just sent me here to humiliate me, and this is bullshit. And they talk to him about how food is joy, service is joy. It's funny. I talk a lot in therapy. For those if you've never heard my show, or when I host a show, you've only watched Alexis, you're one of her friends. I'm a professional therapist, so when I say therapy, it's me providing the therapy, not in therapy, which is a whole other conversation. But I often talk about love languages, which sounds silly, it sounds trite, but your ability to communicate love and receive love is one of the base fundamentals of a successful relationship. And one of those things is, as trite as it sounds, love languages. And one of the love languages is acts of service, not just receiving an act of service, but providing an act of service. There are some people who, the way they show you love, I had an ex-girlfriend, lovely lady. I had an ex-girlfriend who, one of the ways in which she would show me she loved me was when I slept over there, she would send me to work with a packed lunch. And there was always, nice. Dude, she put notes in my lunch.
No,
like a mom.
It's adorable.
Yeah, no, but that was the thing. It was like, there are all kinds of ways to demonstrate and express love. That was one of hers. So, as in terms of service, in this episode, these people know that, and getting to go to, it's like Disney. You save and you save and you save for this really expensive experience, and that and you want that experience to be every bit as fulfilling as its promise. And the fact that these people, and this is what they're talking about, these people get to participate in other people's joy, brings them joy. They are providing a service as an extension of love for these people who they don't know. But isn't the world a much better place when we're all showing each other love as opposed to anything else? And I love that about the show. I told you in a recent Damn You Hollywood, or you maybe heard me say to Robert, I'm really trying to embrace joy in my life as I near 50. I've been a cynical, angry, sad, depressed jackass for a good portion of it. I would like to be something different now.
Oh, you're a cynical, depressed jackass, and we love you.
So anywho, my point being that I like that the show thematically also embraces the inherent goodness in bringing love and joy to people through food, through service, etc. And that's the lesson that Richie learns. Getting back, strictly to the show. By the end of that experience, he is changed. He is motivated, and he goes back to the bear, ready to show love to people through this experience. And then later on, when the kitchen is falling apart and Carmi has locked himself in the freezer, and he
got too distracted to call the fridge guy.
And then Sydney is struggling to call the orders. He steps in and does it, and it was like, sometimes your eyes can play tricks on you, and you see something, and it's not what it is, but you see something anyway. He was like the captain of a starship in that moment. He had poise, he had grace, he had confidence. He owned that position, and he got him through that particular moment. And it was awesome to watch, and it was a great performance in this show. From that episode and the Forks episode were two of my favorites this season.
It also spoke to me because one of the things about Richie that I've always taken away is that he seems like somebody who has potential but has never figured out how to use it. Richie has always been very stagnant with what he has in his life. He basically just worked at the beef because it was Michael's shop. He didn't really do anything. His marriage has fallen apart. He finds out this season that his ex-wife is getting remarried, which is always one hell of a low blow. He loves his daughter, but he's, really not particularly close with her. Obviously, he doesn't really know how to raise a daughter. Right. It is cute the way he gets the Taylor Swift tickets for her, though. And I have known so many people where it's like they have talent, but they don't know how to put it to good use. It's like,
right.
What your strengths are, but it's not as line dry as, well, I know how to cook. I should be a chef. I know, it's like, it's very hard for them to kind of factor in all of those useless traits as they were and realize that's the right composition for this job.
Right.
So seeing him realize, like, hey, I've always been good at this kind of stuff, and I've always been good at that kind of stuff. And when you combine being good with this and good with that, I can make it work like this. The epiphany he has is really good. Even the scene of him singing that stupid Taylor Swift song while driving and scraping the bottom of his car because he's getting so energized and so happy with what he does. It's a great moment.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I wish so many people could experience, that epiphany of, I now know what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Purpose goes a long way in repairing the damage life can do to you. I just said a couple seconds ago, and you made up your snide, bitchy remark.
Hey, you're the one who shared the article that said insults mean that I'm more honest and loyal.
Sure. But when you've experienced trauma, when you've experienced kind of the slings and arrows of life, and and they can bring you down, finding purpose, providing service, bringing joy, these are all things that can absolutely put that energy that you need back into your life. And I'm all for it, and I'm glad. I know we joke about I gave you the sludge to deal with. But, it's, beyond, like, I just don't want to do a lot of the nerd stuff anymore. I want to focus more on shows like this, shows that are obviously written and performed well, but also deal with thematic, emotional elements that are important to me. And, quite frankly, a lot of the nerdy stuff doesn't do a good job of it at all. Shows like this,
that's my wheelhouse.
I would much prefer to talk about shows like The Bear or other PTV shows because they really do deal in the complexity of human emotions. So, that's one of the things I really enjoy about this.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to take over. I just need more collaborators who also want to talk Marvel stuff. It's like I have a million guys who are jumping now that Andor season 2 trailer has dropped and we know when it's premiering. And it's like, great. Now who can I get to talk Spider-Man and Daredevil? And
yeah, I get it. So what do you call it? I have a vacation coming up soon, and I was thinking, like, I started watching Daredevil the other night, and I have no intention of reviewing it again. I don't care how good it is. After the Acolyte, like, no more. No, thank you. However, I do want to watch it. I'm interested. I at least want to, at least from a just strictly viewing it. I want to know, when I listen to like The Drinker and Midnight's Edge and all these other people who are inevitably talking about the show, I want to know what they're talking about. So I'm going to watch it. Same thing with Andor. I have time coming to me where I don't necessarily have to be a dad and I don't have to work. So I might actually go back and watch Andor because I've heard nothing but good things about it, but it wasn't one of the ones I reviewed, so I never watched it.
Don't worry, I got David and Andrew Rosecoat beating down my door for that one.
Cool.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, we got hit with a last-minute blizzard, which melted completely today, so my sinuses are going a little haywire. I hate Midwest weather. So, like so, we get to the final episode, which is the opening of it's not really the opening, it's Fred's at Family Night. It's their dry test run, as it were.
Yep. Gotta work the kinks out of the kitchen.
Which starts with a 12-minute non-edited take. Starting from Sydney, going to the front of the house, going to the back of the house, going back to the front. And if you've watched this show for a while, you know that I have something in my throat. I adore when a film does these long takes because they are so hard. And of course, it's not a case of, okay, we can just cut to B-roll. No, you've got to get it all right. And I love, love, love moments like this. And I love seeing this come together. Even the moment where Richie goes to Sydney's father about their drinks menu. And I can't remember if they mentioned that he's like a recovering alcoholic, but he says he's a soda pop guy.
Hey, you mentioned like guest stars in this. So again, I grew up in an all black town, and I grew up immersed in black culture, the black culture of the 80s, where Robert Townsend was, between Hollywood Shuffle and Robert Townsend and his, partners in crime special that was on HBO. Like, this guy, everyone talks about Cosby and Pryor and Eddie Murphy, but like the guy that nobody mentions, but was absolutely a part of that the rise in black comedians was Robert Townsend. And he was there as Sydney's dad. And I'm like, hey, Robert Townsend's still working. It was for me, it was very exciting. It was like, oh my God, this famous comedian from my youth that nobody knows.
But no, like I can't remember if they mentioned before if he was a previous former alcoholic, because he says to Richie, it's like, well, I don't know if anyone told you, I'm a soda pop guy. And Richie says, oh, we know. And on cue, Thack wheels out this gorgeous display of really beautiful soda pops. I'm like, oh my God, that was awesome.
It was
like
in-house soda, wasn't it? Wasn't it soda that they had? I don't know if brewed's the right word, but soda
possibly. We do see in episode 6 that Carmy knows how to make Sprite from scratch.
Right.
And yeah, we may as well go ahead and dive into it. Episode 6. This won an Emmy for John Berthenol and Jamie Lee Curtis. This is a flashback episode taking place, I think it's 5 years before the show starts. We see a Christmas dinner with the Berzados, and we get a healthy dose of just where all of this dysfunction has come from. And I couldn't help but laugh a little because at the beginning of it, when you just see the crowdedness and everything being kind of frantic and hectic, I thought, oh, look, it's Christmas at my grandmother's. Just like that moment where they run into John Mulaney's character. He plays the boyfriend of Sarah Paulson, another guest star, who is Carmi and Nat and Mikey's cousin. And he makes a joke about, it's like, oh, come on, you've seen me multiple times. You know who I am. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds, because that's the kind of thing. My family is so crazy huge that it would always be a case of, wait, who are you? It's like, you've met me multiple times. I've come to multiple family get-togethers. You know who I am.
Can I tell you how many I'm your favorite cousin so-and-so I've gotten over the years? Like, I have a big Italian family on my dad's side, and I can't tell you how many times I've showed up to a family event. I don't know who the fuck anyone is. One of my great aunts had 13 kids, and they all got married, and they all had kids. So you lose track of people. And I would get cornered by some middle-aged Italian broad who would be like, "I'm your favorite cousin," and I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?"
It gets that way with mine. I thought I came from a large Polish family. Turns out I came from a large Czech family. But especially in recent years, a couple of my cousins have married people who had children from other marriages and have adopted those kids into their family. And that's great. But then I see all these other kids running around like, okay, who does that belong to? Who does that belong to? And is that person even a member of our family? I think they may have just crawled out of the woodwork. So it is so hard to keep track of, like, whose kid is that? Okay, and how do they know us? Okay, and is this person married to that person? Are they still dating? What? It's just, I swear to God, I know we bring up this gag all the time, but I really do feel like Charlie Day with the whiteboard with the red yarn on it sometimes trying to decipher. It's like, okay, how are you connected to this family again?
So I'm going to lob you a softball here. There was an element of this episode that I was really struggling with, and it's a small detail, but it was a purposeful detail. It was definitely one the people who made this show wanted you to see, wanted you to notice, and maybe even have the kind of visceral reaction that I had. How gunked up the timer got.
Oh my God.
Like, it got gross.
Did they only have like one or two egg timers and they just kept reusing them? Or did they have an army of egg timers? I with how gunked up they were getting, I couldn't tell if that was the same egg timer.
And then every time they would do like a close-up of her doing something with the egg timer, and her hands are always messy. We're talking about Jamie Lee Curtis's hands, for those who don't know. So Jamie Lee Curtis is cooking the Feast of the Seven Fishes, and she started dark early in the morning, and this is going to go all the way to dinner time. And it's a small house, as all houses are, and people are in and out of the kitchen. And there's a lot of people, and it's kind of like the TNA backstage interview segment where everyone's running in and out and talking over each other. But they keep cutting to a close up of her hand on the egg timer, and her hand is progressively gross, and the egg timer is progressively gross, and it is to track the descent into madness that this family is going. That over the course of 8 to 12 hour holiday get together, Christmas Eve, this family will descend into chaos and madness that ultimately explodes in violence. And I got all of that, but from a purely visceral, visual, I don't do well with certain viscosities, I guess, of liquid.
How badly did you cringe when you saw her slathering the garlic bread with her hand?
God.
She just was like, she didn't use a knife, just handed the garlic bread, smear it on the bread.
Yeah, it's... For me, just because of certain things that just gross me out, I was struggling with a lot of cuts in that episode for that reason. That her slathering the butter grossed me out, the egg timer grossed me out, her hands grossed me out, and I had a very similar reaction to. It's why I brought it up when we did the Oscar show. When Nana clears the bread off the knife. And it's a close-up of the bread on the fingers, and I'm like, whoa, like ew, back up. I don't need a close-up of this.
Oh, and then you also see her wine glass covered with, I don't know how many different sauces that she's clearing messy, but that doesn't stop her from getting a drink. Oh, and you see multiple takes of sugar pouring alcohol down the drain with her mother not noticing.
So this is one of those things that an English major would absolutely go crazy for, or a real, or an actual like film student, because the symbolism of that kitchen as a window into that woman's mind, the dirty hands and the struggle with manic energy, manic mental behavior. Like it was all tied together. So everything going on mentally with her, emotionally with her, to a greater extent, her relationship with all these different family members, their relationship with each other, is shown symbolically in that kitchen. It's really brilliantly written and orchestrated. And I'm going to reset my camera.
Okay, fair enough. No, it really is a great scene. Again, as we see the progression of how things are just getting so rough for her, and it doesn't just start easy, and we see the gradual increase. No, this episode starts with her already on edge, already fringing out, freaking out about this. We see her fighting with her sons. You have a moment where Carmi says, I didn't even want to come back home. We find out that he was in Copenhagen, and I guess probably studying with Luca there, maybe, and yeah, he knows just how dysfunctional his family is. And if you have issues with your family, I'm not saying it's like anyone can relate to, I don't want to go home, but there are a lot of people who have really dysfunctional families who cannot leave their drama at the door. And it's a case of, do I have to deal with this? Not because you don't love your family and not because you don't want to be with them, but because it's going to strain the hell out of you and you just don't want to put up with that shit.
I'm not setting you up. I'm really not. And I don't need you to dig into your own personal life, but you had to have known somebody close to you that has said something similar to Jamie Lee Curtis saying to Carmi, I had to beg you to come home. That fucking line just
no idea.
I believe me, I do, and we'll just leave it at that. But like that line fucking destroyed me because it was so evil and so manipulative and yet so simple. Because like it's such a like sharp turn in the conversation. Because he's like, I came home and, and I had no problem coming home and I wanted to be here. And she's like, and she knows she has him. Like, that's the thing. She knows exactly what she's doing. Mm-hmm. And she has to cut him at the Achilles heel. And so she turns and she says in that evil, like, it's like Maleficent, Jamie Lee Curtis, right on the same fucking scale. And she's like, I had to beg you to come home. And it's like, oh God.
That was her letting her Laurie Strode anger into her role.
Yeah, and like we've all had that person in our life, whether it's a spouse or a mother or an aunt, somebody who they're just so fucking manipulative, personality disordered, whatever, and it's just they want nothing more than to break your spine, like Bane. And it's so painful to watch, and it was definitely relatable.
Mm-hmm. You see the scene where Carmi gives that picture of the dream of reopening the beef as the bear. You can tell this is something he's wanted to do for a while. He gives it to Mikey, and Mikey seems interested and gleeful. But the minute Carmi walks away, we see the signs of his mental illness creeping in. He's having trouble controlling himself. He's hitting himself in the face.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I have lost track of how many times I have screamed, "Damn it, Pete!" when he does something stupid. I know that he's a good guy, and I'm sure that he's going to be a great father to Sugar's baby, but he does so many stupid things throughout these seasons. It's like, my God, Sugar, you just married the dumbest dude in Chicago.
Okay, Sugar throwing the tuna casserole into the yard was hilarious.
Yeah, and I even love, again, okay, I geeked hard when I saw John Mulaney was in this. He's one of my absolute favorite stand-up comedians. Mm-hmm. I always catch his stuff on his Netflix specials. I think he's just freaking genius. And the way he is the one to tell Carmi, it's like, don't hate him. His heart was in the right place when Pete brings in the tuna casserole, because he knows Mikey, Richie, Sugar, and Carm are going to look at him and just rake him over the coals. It's like, be gentle. He's not the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, you have the scene with Carmen Michelle. I love Sarah Paulson. She is such a good actress. If you've ever seen her in Ratchet, she just, nailed that role, and how kind of scary that hospital got. Yikes.
I can say this to you. I feel safe talking to you. If Robert was here, I would feel less safe. But I think Sarah Paulson is one of those actresses where she took one role and it tarred her in a way with a certain group of people to where she's now unfairly maligned, as a bad actress. She took
The Spirit.
I was thinking, I might even have this wrong. Might be confusing it with a different skinny redhead. But I was thinking Ghostbusters.
She wasn't in that.
Yeah, no, it's a different skinny redhead. But still, I don't think Sarah Paulson gets the credit that she deserves, and I'm sure there's something else that she was in that geek people didn't like, and the point still stands.
Yeah, no, everyone was wasted in The Spirit. That's neither here nor there. But you have the scene where she is talking to Carm, and it's clear that she and Carm are close, and she's like, why don't you come up and do some work in New York? And she's saying this not because, well, we're so close and I'd love to have you up there. It's like she knows how, toxic this dysfunctional family is for him, and how she needs to help him get out of there, and he knows it. And yeah, we get the scene of them saying down. Okay, so I guess Bob Odenkirk character Lee is Donna's boyfriend, because they keep calling him Uncle Lee, but when I looked it up, they said he's not an uncle; he's her on again, off again boyfriend.
Right.
So I hate to say it, with how often characters call each other cousin, I tend to forget who's related to who.
I just fucking lose track. I don't even care anymore.
I don't quite get. Okay, I get why Carmi and Richie call each other cousin, but I didn't get why Claire was calling them cousin as well.
I'm gonna guess this is a Chicago thing and leave it at that.
You're probably right. But yeah, we have a scene of them sitting down, and Lee is attempting to explain the origin of the Feast of the Seven Fishes, which is an Italian-American.
Kristen Wiig. That's who I was confusing her with.
Oh yeah, no, that's Kristen Wiig is freaking hilarious. SNL was lucky to have her. And Mikey starts throwing forks at Lee.
Okay,
and
you got so real quick, and I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent here, but so I don't know if you got to listen to Pencil in My Eye or any part of the podcast that created it. I don't know if Sessions is one of the ones you listen to, but
not that often. Sorry,
okay, it doesn't matter. In any case, I talked at length about the podcast that prompted that, which was, we used to watch playthroughs and do trailer reactions. We used to do a bunch of fun things back in the day here. And there was a night that we did a bunch of different playthroughs, one of which was the X-Men one. And at the end of it, we were all getting a little punchy. And Ronnie starts to tell a story about playing the Marvel tabletop RPG game. And I cut him off and I go, Ronnie, you've already told that story on a different podcast. And he fucking lost his mind with me. He absolutely, had he had forks, he would have chucked them at me.
For the record, I know I've repeated a handful of stories on this network. I know I've told the infamous Pepe Le Pew story 1,000 times.
So I'm watching. So it wasn't that Mikey kept repeating the same story. Again, the devil's in the details. It's in the subtext. That's about Bob Odenkirk's character just being fed up with Mikey. Mikey being, again, another one with a lot of charisma, but not a lot of drive, ambition, or follow through. And clearly some mental health issues, and obviously some drug addiction, though I repeat myself. And I've been there. I have absolutely been in a position of seeing somebody who's an absolute disaster of a human being, but is the belle of the ball in that moment, and feeling feeling frustration, wanting to run around and grab people and be like, stop, don't you believe it? Just like, why are you falling for this horse shit? And everyone going, aren't you a mean old bastard? Like, we're all having fun here. But it's like sometimes the cognitive dissonance is too much and it chokes you and you can't take it and you just have to clear the air. And that's what's happening in that scene. And, and Mikey is of the kind of mental health issue where he doesn't want people to see who he really is. That's why he's the way he is. You know, he is so charismatic and he is so entertaining and so vivacious, I guess, that if you truly see, you know, the rotted inside, he would just crumble. He'd go to pieces, which is the way people like him are. Again, that sort of, I don't like to use sort of the mental health buzzwords of the time, but sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And you know, he definitely has a lot of like narcissistic traits. And that's what's happening in that scene is, you know, narcissistic people don't want you to see the rotted inside. And when Bob Odenkirk does the one thing you don't do with a narcissist is he fucking blows them up in public. And you know, and at that point, Mike is just a wild animal.
Those close-ups of Bob Odenkirk's this is something I didn't notice in the first season, but the directors for this use a ton of extreme close-ups of these characters.
I kept thinking again of like The Substance.
Yeah, I thought about, I noticed this during the multiple scenes of Carm and his girlfriend Claire and how close the camera got to their face. And it's interesting because on one hand, it is uncomfortable. It's showing a real lack of personal space, but it's also an intimacy thing, which is something that the characters are struggling with, you know? And it's a little overdone, but I think it's kind of genius in the same way that you find yourself just caught up in the moment with these characters and you cannot get out of their personal space because of how close you are to their face. And I think that's what they're trying to do with the direction is they're trying to say, you are a part of what is going through their minds and you cannot escape it.
It definitely adds to the dramatic tension. You know, and I think it purposely kind of gives you a sense of almost like claustrophobia. The Bear is a very enjoyable show, but I can see where it would also induce anxiety in people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a brilliant show and I'm so glad we started watching it, but if someone told me they can't watch it because it makes them uncomfortable, I could not blame them. I could not. I don't think I could talk them out of it saying, "Oh no, you just don't understand it." If they came up to me and said that was an issue, I'd be like, "Gotcha."
Well, you know, not to beat the subject completely to death, but part of the reason why I dumped the sludge on you was how uninterestingly a lot of the stuff is shot. Everything, you know, I'll take the Star Wars stuff as probably the best example of this. So much of Ahsoka is just flat shots.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to something like The Bear, and you're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to shoot a television show. You know, not everything should be your home VHS fucking movies. Like, do interesting stuff with the camera. Make me involved with the project.
That's one of the things I really loved about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, actually. It was the ability to understand when you should use comic panel style cinematography and moving along with the characters through a 3D element. It was very creative. And we'll hopefully get that back on the schedule someday.
There's nothing valuable in animation. Stop bringing it up. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Who are you, Pat?
Yes.
But yeah, episode 6, like that whole scene is so uncomfortable. And then Donna comes in and Stevie delivers that beautiful little, it's not really like a sermon or grace or whatever, just...
It was a toast.
It was a toast, yeah. And it was so nice. And Donna breaks down and Sugar breaks the one rule that her brother specifically told her not to do. And that is she asks her mother, "You okay?" And I love that it pans to Carm, Richie, and Mikey all going, "Oh, shit." Because they all know what's about to happen.
Right. I can't believe she lived. And so the next thing the episode, once they're done throwing forks at each other and everyone's kind of going all bunkhouse brawl, the episode ends with Jamie Lee Curtis driving her car through the house. And I thought she was fucking dead. Like, you don't see anything else after that except everyone's freaking out and screaming "Mom." So I assume she was dead. So later on in the season, when they're opening the Bear and they've invited their mother to...
It's like, "Oh, you're still around."
I was like, "Oh, you're alive?" And then you see her. She actually talks to Sugar's husband. And she's like, "Don't tell him I was here."
Oh, and then Pete mentions about the pregnancy, to which we again shout, "Damn it, Pete!"
Yeah, I would assume they're going to get more into that, and that'll pay off in season 3 in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely yeah, her showing up to the restaurant and the way it's handled, like, I don't have a problem with it. It's just weird. Like, and to the degree that I understand people with mental illness and them not being able to kind of pull the trigger on social interaction at times.
Hmm.
Like, I got that element of it. I sometimes wonder why. Look, when you're a writer, you're a god. You create your own universe, and the decisions that there's you can make characters do whatever you want, whether they make sense or not. And I was sitting there, and I definitely questioned the purpose of her having to show up to the restaurant, interact with Pete, and leave. What this added to the narrative. So it's like within the context of the character, it all made sense. In the context of the narrative, I'm not entirely sure what it added.
Not 100%. Obviously, there is the fact that she now knows that she's going to be a grandmother.
Sure.
So, but I agree. Thought it was interesting. I think it would have been much better had it been Richie who saw her outside and not Pete.
Yeah.
Especially because there is this thing with
Or
Carter has
somebody involved in the restaurant.
and with the family. We see that the Fack brothers have grown up with the Brazados. They were there 5 years ago. They've always been part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, hell, they call each other cousin. And then when Pete tries to call Richie cousin in season 1, Richie's like, you don't get to call me that. It's like, that is our word. You do not get to say that word, or something stupid like that. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have had more of an impact, especially since Pete then goes in and starts crying, and he can't tell Natalie or Sugar, whatever, why he's crying. I was like, this would have been so much better if it had been Richie who had seen her. Especially, again, we have poor Carm gets locked inside the freezer, or the fridge, not a freezer. If it was a freezer, he'd probably be dead. And I do love the line from the fridge guy when he shows up when I can't tell if it's E-Bomb or Marcus who says it's like first time, and he goes, no. It's like, you think this is the first time I've cut someone out of a fridge? No. I just have this image. It was like, another person stuck in a fridge. I'll go get my tools.
So the last thing I want to bring up before we start to close out, and if I don't say this, I'm going to be mad that we did this entire show and I didn't get to talk about this, so I'm cutting in and doing it now. It bothered me. This is one element of the show that I really question the writing, and I don't understand where it's going or why they did this. I had a very similar issue with Batman. Like, I don't understand the sort of what I'm noticing is a trend in modern writing of to love is to distract you from the goal. I hate the fact that, oh gosh, what's the actor's name? Who plays the mobster? Oliver Platt. Oliver
Cicero,
Platt. Yeah. I hate Oliver Platt's conversation with him about if in order for this restaurant to succeed, you have to dedicate everything to it. I just think it's bullshit. I understand, like, you have to dedicate a lot, but to sit there and say no human connections, no relationships, I think that's horseshit. And then, Carmy kind of falls apart. And again, it's kind of, literary low-hanging fruit for him to have this sort of existential crisis that has him not knowing he's doing it, saying to the girlfriend, I would be better off without you. I won't succeed in this restaurant with you. And I'm like, God damn it. Batman and Catwoman would have been fine. Batman can love. It's okay. Like, love is a part of, not to be this guy, and go back to an hour ago, but, love is a part of the human experience. We'll die without it. Why are you doing it to these characters?
No, I agree. As someone who runs her own business, I know just how much you have to dedicate to yourself. And if one of my friends or my parents or someone came up to me and would just kind of grab me by the shoulders and said, stop talking about Honeysuckle Rose Creations for one night, I probably understand. I have waited so many times because people ask me all the time, how are you doing? How's your bit, or how are you doing? And I started talking about the business, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking, do they really care about the business, or are they actually asking how you're doing as a human? And you just can't separate the two anymore. So I understand that you do have to devote yourself wholly to something like that, but. And furthermore, I do actually know that there are some people who cannot separate,
right.
And to them, it's like cannot break away from that. And I pity them,
Mm.
but I don't know how to convince them that's not the way to go. And I don't know how to,
We talk about
you
this
know,
on Damn You Hollywood all the time. If you as a filmmaker can't collaborate, I don't think you're truly going to make good films. And so many of the worst films we've reviewed that aren't necessarily part of the sludge, but
you really love that word tonight.
I say it constantly. Slop, if you like. The gook.
How about we go with the line from Ever, the smudge? Who's responsible for the smudge?
But it's because somebody's singular vision went unchallenged and there was no collaboration. And maybe sometimes you can get away with that. But I think oftentimes, look, I think we're better and more complete and more creative, more inventive and successful people when we have other people in our lives to bounce off of. And I think, and maybe that's where this is going, is this is the end of season 2. There's a whole other season, and I think they're currently finishing season 4 now, so that's coming up, I think, this summer. And maybe that's his journey, and I just have to be patient and not be one of those, one of you fucking nerdy people who are like, oh my god, what have you done to poor Luke Skywalker? And it's like, okay, if you wait, this will play itself out and it'll be fine. He'll have success. Okay, fine. But it was hard to see him hit the wrong conclusion that I have to be alone in order to be successful. You don't. I already struggle with the lack of success this endeavor has had. I can only imagine how much worse it would be if I was doing it alone. And I didn't have
Definitely.
people to bounce off of that pushed me to try to make it better. Look, I kid you about it, but we didn't do Oscar stuff until you came along and screwed everything up.
And you love me for it.
Absolutely. There were other people that have, added other elements to this. I certainly wasn't doing comic books, and that was Jesse that brought that up. So like I said, collaboration, ideas, other people's energies, that's what makes the whole thing worthwhile, and I think ultimately more successful. And I fucking hate, not to mention the fact that Carmi and that chick were like awfully cute together.
They had such great chemistry
they really
together.
Did. I don't know if you've ever watched The West Wing, but only to be matched by Josh and Mary Louise Parker. More on that next week.
No, they found the perfect actress to play Claire. She and Carm or Jeremy Allen White, I guess, they fit so well together. The scene of them driving to drop off the license.
Oh, it's good shit.
Yeah, just it's like 100 out. It's like, how do you do it because she's a ER nurse.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, how do you do it? 100 hours on, 2 hours off, and it's gnarly and gross. And she goes, well, how is that any different from a chef? 100 hours on, 2 hours off, gnarly and gross. So, I thought that was a great moment between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they just fit so freaking well together. They were so cute. If you told me these two actors ended up getting married in real life, I would have believed it.
Yep. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
Just how freaky it is to see John Bernthal go from this and then go watch him as Punisher, because my God, talk about polar opposite characters. Bernthal really is a brilliant actor. I freaking love him.
If you can pull yourself away from the slop, the muck, the mire, the garbage, the wet hot nonsense that you're into, your silly cartoons, your hell of a hotel, whatever the fuck it's called. You should go watch some adult television. Go check out John Bernthal and yet another one of our great literary minds of our time, David Simon's "We Own This City," which Jesse, Robert, and I reviewed for my birthday party one year. He's awesome in "We Own This City." He's so good. John Bernthal is a stellar actor.
It's hard. It is really hard to try to balance how many shows I watch for you. Not to mention, you got to remember, a lot of what I watch is the smudge, as you're calling it. It's not just that I'm interested in it. It's that also working in the Comic-Con circuit, I have to know what is popular, what are people talking about, what is going to be trending. People wanted to, it's like David Tennant is a guest at Planet Comic-Con in 2 weeks, and people are going to want someone, or they're going to be more likely to buy at a booth with somebody who can talk Doctor Who with them.
You could talk about this last season of Doctor Who that got it canceled and possibly, kicked into never being on air again for the next 100 years.
Yeah, well, that's called Stephen Moffat really didn't know how to multitask.
I've watched a lot of conservative, what do you call it, entertainment critics talk about this last season of Doctor Who, and
Oh, what did the critical drinker say?
I haven't heard his thing on it, but I listened to Echo Chamberlain's thing on it because it was between that and the Acolyte, Dog with a Bone, and there was a couple of others that brought it up. Like for about a week straight, there was nothing but Doctor Who has been destroyed videos. So whatever it was they did with it this past season apparently was not great. But all right, take me home, baby doll.
All right, but yeah, so if you have a chance, The Bear is streaming on Hulu. It is really great. Go check it out. This is a wonderful, well done series, especially if you're a foodie, if you're a fan of cooking, if you've worked in the service hospitality industry. A lot of this is going to hit really close to home for you, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So let's see here. This is actually my last show for a little bit. I think I will be back on, it's either the 17th or the 18th.
By the way, you lying sack of shit, tell the truth. Tell the truth right now. Tell the people. You asked to be on Snow White. I didn't ask you. You asked to be on Snow White.
I distinctly remember you asking me.
Not in this lifetime.
Okay, that's the way I remember it.
Listen to that.
I'm not lying if that's the way my memory sees it. Okay, that's not a lie.
Okay, Melissa, you live your truth.
Oh, that's an insult.
That's hilarious. Your camera froze as you were giving me double middle fingers. All right.
There's your screenshot for this for your TikTok.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
But yeah, I'll be back on. It's either the 17th or the 18th. Zachary Strobel and I will be covering a Damn You Hollywood on the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie. Should be fun. I will be back after.
What date are you doing that?
It's either the 17th or the 18th
of March.
Yeah.
Oh, then it's
the 18th. It's the 18th.
Okay, I never put it on the calendar, so I'll do that now.
Yeah. No, I put it on the Google Calendar when Zach asked me to.
For whatever reason, between the two of us, when you do it, I don't see it. When I do it, you don't see it. So I'm doing it now.
I think this is why after a while I just send you the dates. It's like, I just put it on there. Just save us both a headache. It doesn't help. If I edit it, I have to edit it on my laptop. I can't edit on my phone. My phone, it will not let me. I don't know why.
All right, I got it on there now, the 18th. I didn't put anything in there. You know what you're doing. The day the Earth blew up, just Tuesday the 18th. And I would say treat that the same way you did Wallace and Gromit.
No problem. And after that, of course, I will be back on the 24th for the Snow White, taking a little time off this month to focus on, focus on my company. We got things kind of fell behind this winter. Usually January and February is downtime for us to focus on getting our financial paperwork done, doing our business plan for the year. But between my husband having to go into the hospital for surgery and me getting T-boned and having to buy a new car, January just really got away from me, and I'm still scrambling to get back to where I need to be. So I hope you guys have fun reviewing Mickey 17 and Novocaine. I still want to see those movies, so hope you guys have fun reviewing them.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good time. Tomorrow, speaking of peak TV, nothing but the best. Absolute best in peak television, high drama, the kind of art that you find in the pristine halls of the best presentation of television. We will be concluding our exhaustive look at one of the great television shows of the modern age, something that truly captures the heart and spirit, the ethics, the drama.
Oh my God, get over it.
Lord, 21st century digital people. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the conclusion, the glorious conclusion of Cobra Kai.
I was expecting like an explosion or something there at the end.
No, I wanted to watch the light in your eyes die.
I was like, I'm sorry, should I hit the V boom ending button or something?
Don't. I gotta fix the sound on that. Anyway, but yes, we will be, myself, Andrew Graham, and David Wright will be, and Pat Theory will be concluding our look at 6 seasons of Cobra Kai. That is tomorrow. Monday, as Alexis. Well, actually, I take that back. Sunday. Nope. Try again. Monday. We will be looking at.
Monday.
It'll be Robert and I will be reviewing Mickey 17. And then on Wednesday, late at night, at 11 o'clock, myself and Harry Broadhurst will be doing another Indie-Siders episode. We'll be reviewing AEW Revolution. We'll also probably talk the Elimination Chamber and John Cena's heel turn. We'll compare it to Hulk Hogan's in the NWO from 100 years ago.
Did you see Jon Stewart comparing?
You're at least the third person to bring that up to me.
Oh, come on. Jon Stewart is a fan of the WWE, so when he actually talks about it, I love it.
I'm well aware of that. I saw the clip on TikTok. It was hilarious.
I saw it too. It was great.
Quite accurate, as a matter of fact. Speaking of accurate, a week from tomorrow night, we got The West Wing, Season 3. It'll be myself, Andrew, Jesse, and Dorian Price. I'm done talking now.
All right. So, like I said, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. As I mentioned, we're going to be at Planet Comic-Con here at the end of March. Going to be so excited because we got David Tennant, Catherine Tate, John Rhys Davies, Christopher freaking Lloyd, and Christina Ricci. We're going to announce family reunion. And since it is Christopher Lloyd, we are making some new flux capacitor jewelry. I'm actually working on these awesome cufflinks. One's got the flux capacitor on it. The other one's got the out of time license plate.
Make sure you send one of those to Jesse.
I knew you were going to say, I was like, and waiting for it. Yes, I will. Does Jesse have an excuse to wear cufflinks?
Did I, when you sent me mine?
Did I send you cufflinks? I thought I sent you a pin.
No, you sent me Hulk cufflinks.
I could have sworn I sent you a Hulk pin when you were going through your radiation treatment.
I assure you it was cufflinks.
Okay, fine. It was cufflinks. That was years ago. That was pre-COVID.
And I still remember it because it was meant that much to me.
Glad you appreciated it.
You also asked to be on Snow White.
I distinctly remember
compliment with one hand, beat with the other.
See, I distinctly remember you getting excited about me being on Snow White because you said you wanted me in there to help pulverize that piece of shit. You talked about how you wanted me to join you and Robert in just destroying that crap.
Under the guise of you wanting to be on, sure.
I give up.
Yep. There you go. That's my girl.
Love you too, boss. All right. So for myself, for Mr. Radulich, thank you for joining us. Be well, behave, and remember, every second counts.